Hi, this is National Master Dan Heisman, and we're here with another video to help you improve your game. We're going to do a little candidates move puzzle stuff. I just picked the 2016 candidates tournament, and we're going to pick some random games and some random positions, hopefully not recaptures, and try to figure out what are the top 2 or 3 candidate moves. I'm not going to spend more than 2 or 3 minutes for each position. Try to guess what they are. I'll let the engine tell me, and then we'll jump to another random. So here's a game, Iranian Nakamura. Let's find, I don't know, White's 19th move. So we got to go forward 36. Forward 36. White's 19th move. What's a recapture? Bishop takes g2. Do we have any Zwischenzugs here? Yes, we do. We could play knight takes e7 check first and then recapture. King takes g2, or we could just leave the knight there. And if we play king takes g2 and he takes the knight, g takes f5, we have queen g5 check, king h7, queen g7 checkmate, so we can't take the knight. So obviously the top 2 candidate moves here seem to be knight takes e7 check to make black weak on the dark squares, or king takes g2. I don't think there's any other moves. Let's just see what he did, because this isn't as interesting till the next move. He does decide to go after the dark squares with knight takes, queen takes, and king takes. Black plays queen e5, tries to get rid of the pieces. Let's see, let's count the material. Black is ahead a pawn. So white would like to keep attacking those dark squares. So what's a candidate move here? Trading queens looks bad. Queen takes, rook takes, bishop to f4, rook moves, some compensation for the pawn, not a lot. Can we keep the queens on the board? If we play queen to h4, he plays queen to h5, and then if I play queen takes f6, he plays queen takes h6, and then I have rook takes d7. That's good for white. If I play queen h4 and he plays knight h5, his knight's a little out of play. Could white do something then? Maybe rook takes d7. All right, so queen h4 looks like a candidate. What else could white play? Queen to d2. Then black could maybe play knight to e4. Can white play something clever like knight to d5? Doesn't look like it. I think black can just take. So queen h4 is a candidate. Queen takes e5 is a candidate. Bishop g5, is that a candidate? I don't think so. h4, maybe. How about doubling my rooks on the d file? Rook to d2. Later he could play knight c4, but my queen's guarding it. But if rook d2, queen takes f4, bishop takes f4, knight c4 is probably a little unpleasant. So maybe rook to d2, not so good. Rook d3 is possible. Rook d3 is a candidate. All right, so let's take a look. I'm still looking at queen h4 maybe. Queen takes e5 is less likely. Rook d3 maybe. Let's take a look. Top 3. Mr. Engine, show us the top 3. All right, we did say queen e5 was equal. We saw h4. He didn't like queen h4. Must be a reason why queen h4 didn't make it. But right now the top 3 are queen e5, h4, and e3. All right, so I missed e3. I thought maybe queen h4. All right, let's take another game. Paste this in. Stop the analysis. Paste. Let's look at game, I don't know, 41. All right, Iranian versus Svidler. Let's go forward. Let's take it to, I don't know, black's 23rd move. So we got to go forward 45. White plays knight to g4. Let's flip the board. Game flip. Okay, white's just played knight to g4. White's trying to attack the king side. Material is even. Can black play bishop takes g5? Bishop takes g5. F takes g5. Queen takes g5. Knight f6 check. Wins the queen. So that doesn't look all that wonderful. Can we play f6? No, because the queen takes e6 check. Can we force his knight in with a move like h5? h5. If knight h6 check, can't play king to h7 because of knight takes h7. h5, knight h6 check, king g7. Looks kind of icky, but maybe I can get away with it. What else could black play here? Can he play queen to b6 to guard e6 and then play f6? Queen b6 pins the d-pawn also, even though there's no big deal there. Maybe after that there could be a later f6 and e5. Bishop takes g5, f takes g5, weakens the dark squares. The knight can come in with check. Looks dangerous. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, knight f6 check, queen takes f6, rook takes f6, knight takes f6. Black has a bishop, a rook, he has a knight, a rook, and a pawn for his queen. Bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, knight f6 check, queen takes f6, rook takes f6, knight takes f6. Can black survive that? He probably can. I guess bishop g5 is a candidate move. All right, let's look at the list again. Let's see what the engine says. Mr. Engine, what's your top three here? h5 is his number one, but it says white is a lot better. King g7 is number 2. Rook c8, I didn't look at that, is number 3. All right, so h5 turns out to be number 1, but white's in trouble in any case. All right, let's stop that. Pick out another game. Just keep pasting them in here. Let's look at game number 33. Topalov against Fiddler. Let's look at white's, I don't know, did it get the 30 moves? Let's try move 30. Forward 48, forward 58. Ply. Okay, there's our game. Black has just played bishop takes e5. Well, we know we have to recapture, so we will. Black moves the rook. All right, white's turn. We're looking for white's candidate moves here. White has 4 pawns. Black has 4 pawns. White has the bishop pair. The pawn on a5 is a little weak. Knight to c6 would hit both bishops. We can't let him do that. Can we just move our one bishop and let him hit the other one? Can we play bishop to c7? Bishop c7. The knight cannot hit that bishop. Knight d5, knight a6 are not possible. The knight can hit the rook. If knight c2, bishop takes c2. Can he play rook to c5? Yes. Then maybe bishop to b6. So bishop c7 is possible. How about bishop d4? No, bishop d4, he hits both knights with knight to c6. I don't think that's possible. Any move where he moves the knight and hits both bishops is not good. Can we just move the bishop on b3? Where will we go? Bishop d1? Bishop a2, he could play rook takes a5. Bishop a4, he could play rook takes a5. If I play bishop a4, and he plays rook takes a5, can I play bishop c3 and win the knight? No, well, my rook is guarded. All right, so bishop a4, rook a5, bishop c3. He can't play rook b5. If he moves the knight and doesn't attack my rook, I can play bishop takes a5. If he moves the knight to c2 and hits my rook, then bishop takes c2 and my rook's guarded by my bishop on c3. So maybe bishop a4 is a move. If he plays rook to c5, I could play bishop to d6 or something. All right, so let's look at that again. Bishop a4, rook takes a5, bishop c3. Am I missing something? Knight to c2. Bishop takes c2, rook to b5, bishop takes b5. I think bishop a4 is a candidate move then. Bishop a4, Bishop c7 we said was a candidate. All right, let's see what the computer says. Mr. Computer, what's your top 3? Rook c1, bishop d1. I did look at that briefly, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what it did. Bishop c7. Well, that move we did. He didn't like bishop a4 doesn't make the top 3. Just for the fun of it, let's make that move. Says he can take the pawn. Then if we play bishop c3, he plays bishop c6. Ooh, cute. Move I missed. And now it says the game is 0-0-0. So white throws away his advantage if he plays bishop a4. All right, well, that was wrong. But bishop c7 was right. And I did not... I saw bishop d1, but I didn't really say it because it didn't look like it did much. And rook c1, just giving him that pawn. And, of course, he can't play rook takes a5 because of rook c8 check, winning the bishop. So I should have mentioned that as a candidate. I think after rook to c1, black would play bishop to b7 or something. Engine says no, he should counterattack with knight d3, hitting both bishops, which is what I was trying to avoid in the first place. All right, let's go to the next one. Next game. All right, here we go. Paste the game into here. All right, we're looking for another game. Let's go to game 7. Karjakin against Nakamura. Let's find black's, I don't know, 20th move. So let's go forward 39. Is that the right number? Okay. White has just played rook ac1. All right, let's flip the board so we can look at it from Naka's point of view. Game flip. Okay. All right, so white has just played rook ac1. Black has the IQP, isolated queen pawn. Black's pieces are pretty active. The bishop on b7 is helping the knight on e4. White has a nice square in front of the isolated queen pawn for his pieces. Black can certainly play rook to c8. If then something like bishop takes f6, then queen takes f6 is okay because the rook is still guarded by a rook and a bishop. So after rook ac8, we would expect white to play queen to b1. That's got to be a candidate move. He's not going to pin one of his pieces with knight c3 or something. That just doesn't look right. I guess it's possible. But rook ac8, rook c8 is a candidate move. What else were the other candidate moves? We're looking for, can we attack f2 somehow? No, it's guarded by the king and the knight on d3. Can we play something like knight g4 and move our queen to the king's side? Knight g4. I'm not really threatening to take on f2 yet. I don't really see how that's going to work. Knight g4, probably not a candidate move. Can we play a5 and then bishop a6? Does that weaken d5 too much? a5 keeps his knight out of b4. a5 lets the bishop go to that diagonal. I guess a5 is a candidate. We could just move our queen somewhere. Maybe queen to e7, queen to d7. Queen d7 puts it on the light squares. From d7, maybe I could get up to g4 in some lines. I mean, if I play queen g4 right away, he can play f3. So I'm not really threatening anything like that. Queen d7, queen to e7, rook to c8, a5. What else could black do? Knight to c5 doesn't look like a great candidate move. Can he play h5, h4? h5. Then he puts a knight on f4, hitting d5, hitting the pawn on h5, overworking the knight a little. Yeah, I don't really like that. I mean, I could take the knight on f4, but he has two knights on that square. All right, I'm going to say it's rook c8, maybe queen to e7, queen to d7, a5 maybe. Let's see what the engine says. All right, engine, what's your top 3 here? h5 does make the list. Okay. a5 does make the list. Good. Rook c8. All right. Well, I actually scored pretty high on this one. a5, rook c8, and h5. h5 is the least of the 3. I thought h5 was a candidate, but I wasn't sure how good it was. But it is a logical move in this kind of position with the weak light squares on the king side. So a5, rook c8, h5. Okay. Did a little better on that one. All right, let's go to another one. All right, here we go. We're going to paste. Look for a game here. Let's look at game 11. We did 7. Let's look at 11. Nakamura Svidler. I don't think we did. We did Nakamura and we did Svidler, but maybe not this game here. Let's do White's 23rd move. That's forward 44. 44 ply, that is. Okay, here we go. All right, Black has just played A6, and we're looking for White's candidate moves. What does A6 do? Keeps pieces out of B, stops Rook to B5. What could White play? If he plays D7, it's got to be a candidate. Then after Bishop to B7, could White play Bishop takes E6? Doesn't look like it. Just looks like it loses a piece. D7, Bishop B7 just helps him develop. Not sure we want to do that. What else could White play here? He could attack the king side, but the queen can get over there. The black queen. Rook to E1 doesn't make any sense. The d-pawn falls. Can we attack B6? We can't play queen B2 because the queen takes C4. How about moving the bishop so we can not have to watch it with the queen? We could play bishop A2. Then he has queen A3 hitting the bishop, the A pawn, and the C pawn. That's a little annoying. We could play bishop B3. Then he's got knight A5 maybe. How about moving a rook up somewhere? Rook to D3. No, we could play queen takes C4. H4, our favorite move, H4, like Alpha 0. I don't think it does anything here. It gives the knight another square on H2. Don't see it. How about knight to the center? How about knight to E3? Does that give him the E5 square? I guess it does. But the knight on G4, I'm not sure where he's going other than E3. Where is he going from E3? I'm not sure on that either. Do we have anything crazy like bishop D5? Doesn't look like it. Let's look back at D7 then. D7, bishop B7. Is there any follow-up? We could put our queen on the D file. Play queen to D3. Our late squares are kind of weak on the king side with that bishop on B7. I'm not sure I really want to force the bishop. I mean, D7 is a candidate, but is it really that good? If I could get his knight off of C6, maybe I could get my knight to E5. That would be great. I don't see how I can do that. I guess I could somehow try to maneuver my bishop back to F1 and G2. I could play queen A2 and then play bishop somewhere and then bishop G2, but he has queen takes C3. Well, maybe not because I could skewer his queen and his knight. But if he plays bishop B7, he's going to be guarding the knight. So I'm looking at something like queen A2, bishop B7, bishop to F1. If queen takes C3, then rook takes B6. Not sure that that's all wonderful. I'm trying to reposition my pieces so I can do something. Where should my knight go? If I can get my knight to E4, that's not too bad, but I can't go to F2. All right, well, I'm running out of time here for this one. I'll say D7 is a candidate, but it's not a strong one. Maybe something like queen to A2 or E4. I don't see any great rook lifts. Knight E3, not that likely. I think Black's doing okay here, but let's see if the computer likes the pawn push, because it's not clear. All right, Mr. Computer, what's the top 3? All right, he's got D7 is in the top 3. I thought it might be. I wasn't sure it was number 1, and it's not. H4, we said H4, and I almost in jest, but the engine has it as number 3. I guess Alpha 0 has had his effect on Stockfish. And finally, bishop to D3, which is a move I didn't look at, or at least didn't look at very much. To put it on that diagonal, maybe later I could play queen E4 and create some threats against the king. So that probably should have been on my list. That's number 1 now by a good margin. So didn't score quite as high on that one. All right, let's stop that. We have time for at least one more. All right, we're going to paste again over here. Paste. Let's look at game 29. Okay. Caruana against Nakamura. All right, let's find Fabiano's, I don't know, a little earlier this time, maybe 18th move. So we go forward 34. Forward 34. Okay. Bring that up. Black has just played B3. Oh, we got an exciting game. Castle opposite sides. Throw the kitchen sink at everybody. B3. Well, normally when someone plays B3, you'd like to capture it and then move a pawn up to block. But you have to be careful about opening up the A file. So, for instance, if you play A takes B3, A takes B3, C3, he might be able to play Rook A1 check, King takes A1, Queen A8 check, King B1, Queen A2 check, King C1, Queen A1 check, King D2, Queen takes B2 checkmate. If you don't believe me, let's play it. Takes, here, double question mark, check, here, famous combination, check, here, check, here, check, here, checkmate. That's what I told you. All right, so we can't do that. Obviously, they all see that instantly. Could we do it the other way? Could we play C takes B3 and then A3? Well, then black would love to sacrifice on A3 with that bishop on D6. So maybe at some point, if we do that, we could, if he tries to move the knight, we could take off his bishop on D6. That would get rid of our beautiful knight on F5, though. So C takes B3 is a candidate, but A takes B3 does not really look like a candidate. C takes B3 is a candidate. We could ignore him, and if he plays B takes A2 check, we could play King A1 and use it as a shield. But he might just play A3 and like do a secondary sacrifice. So you have to be careful. All right, I'll say C takes B3 as a candidate move. Knight takes D6 to get rid of that strong bishop, I guess, is a candidate move, although I can't believe it's that good. How about just ignoring him completely and opening up the king with G takes F6? That's got to be a candidate. Rook on H to G1 to threaten G takes F6. I guess that's good too. So we have to work on defense versus offense. I'm thinking the offensive moves are the better ones. I kind of like G takes F6, playing on the king side right away. If we wait and play Rook HG1 first, can he then play something like G6 and try to keep it closed? I'm not sure. G takes F6, got to be a candidate. C takes B3, maybe a candidate. Knight takes D6, I'm not so sure. Rook HG1, maybe. All right, let's take a look here. Mr. Engine, what are your top three? This is the most difficult position of the three. So A3 going right past makes it right now. Rook HG1, which was one of my candidates, and Rook DG1, which I didn't mention, but it's the same kind of thing. Those are actually 1, 2. I thought maybe taking the pawn first. Taking the pawn doesn't make it. If we go to like the top 5, does taking the pawn even make it there? Doesn't really. Doesn't make it at all. Engine doesn't like it. Is that because if you take the pawn, he can just go past you? Let's ask the engine. Mr. Engine, if I take that pawn, what you going to play? Engine says, just take with the queen. And now if you try to put rooks on he's threatening the knight. If you put rooks on the file, he'll just take off the knight. So just doesn't make it. So putting the rook on G1 first is more accurate. How about C3? Is that even a move? Sorry, C takes B3. Engine says, then bishop takes F5. That's to let this bishop live so he can sack over here. E takes F5. A takes B3. And now the problem is if we play A3, he has something like knight here threatening like bishop takes in some lines. The engine says he doesn't have to do that right away, but the attack on the dark squares is very strong here, and black has a slight advantage. So if white wants to retain his advantage, he's got to play rook 8, rook there. And in the game, Fabiano, having more time than I did and also being a much better player, he took 11 minutes and played rook hg1, which is numero uno. So he figured it out. Hopefully if I had more time, I would have done a little better, but I did mention that move is like my number 2 move, but it's clearly number 1. All right, hopefully you enjoyed today's video on finding candidate moves. Whenever you're playing a game, you can't play what you don't see. If you can't find the candidate moves on the moves that you want to analyze, then you're not going to be able to play them, and of course you're going to be a weaker player. So you always start out by looking wide before you look deep and ask yourself, what are all my reasonable moves? And the moves that you're going to consider are called candidate moves. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Tell your friends about my channel, Dan Heisman Chess, and we will see you next time. If you like the video, you can like it. If you want to subscribe, we can do that too. See you then. Bye.